Ever since I bought a PlayStation 4 for the sole purpose of playing Batman Arkham Knight, I've been getting regular requests to review various brand spanking new AAA games. I got requests for Alien Isolation, a few requests for Dragon Ball Xenoverse, several requests for Fallout 4, but the game that I've been inundated with requests for is the new Star Wars Battlefront. And yes, you have to refer to it as the new Star Wars Battlefront, or DICE's Battlefront, because they gave it this exact same name as a game that already exists. I've said it to various people, but I thought that I'd go ahead and make this perfectly clear in a standalone video. I have no intentions of reviewing Star Wars Battlefront. See, I can't review a game if I don't have it, and I have absolutely no intentions of purchasing Star Wars Battlefront. In case you haven't heard, and if you've paid any attention at all to Battlefront, you probably have heard it, there is not a single-player campaign of any kind in the new game. There is practically zero single-player content to speak of. The only single-player content, the only offline content of any kind that the game has, is a Horde mode. Horde mode in most shooters is a small side mode where you shoot endless bots until you die. The exception in Battlefront being I'm told its Horde mode actually does have an ending. Point is, Horde mode is one small mini-game that you're realistically only going to play a handful of times, and that's the only single-player content of any kind that's in Star Wars Battlefront. Now, before I get into why that really creams my corn in terms of video games, I'll briefly address the other noteworthy things that everyone is talking about with Battlefront. Yes, Battlefront's graphics are absolutely gorgeous. Big fat hairy deal. Graphics do not matter to a real gamer. The only time I go out of my way to mention graphics in a game is if it's a Flight of the Falcon situation where the crappy graphics actively impede the gameplay. That is because graphics are irrelevant unless they are bad. If you like the graphics, watch Let's Plays or the movies. Games are called games because you play them, and pretty graphics on a game you don't like is just lipstick on a pig. Pretty it up and admire it all you want, it's still just a pig. I've fallen into the trap of willing myself to play a game because I thought it looked nice once before. It was called Star Wars Monopoly, and I was 6. I grew up, and judging by my hour and 20-minute long rant of the visually stunning Metroid Other M, I'd say that I know better now. Yes, EA's DLC policy is complete and utter bullshit. Judging from what Jim Sterling has said, it sounds like EA has cut out about half of the game's content and locked it behind a $50 season pass in a pathetic attempt to get away with charging double the price for a video game that was already going to sell a ton of copies and make tons of money in the first place. For God's sake, do you know what the special edition of the game is? It's 2 exclusive emoticons, and also you start the game with 3 items that you could just purchase in the regular game after 1 match anyway. They charged $10 extra for 2 glorified smileys! The hell is the matter with you? It's naked anti-consumer greed, and it makes me sick. Plus, those gorgeous eye-popping graphics that everybody's drooling over, yeah, those didn't come cheap. They're probably part of the reason EA is pulling this bullshit. At the very least, they're a convenient excuse for EA to shit all over its customers in classic EA fashion. But back to the matter of hand of why I'm not going to buy this game out of protest. Battlefront is essentially 1/2 of a finished game. It's the online multiplayer mode with no single-player campaign. And setting aside the fact that I'm not a huge fan of first-person shooters to begin with, I can't stand online multiplayer games. I've got a whole litany of reasons why I hate online multiplayer, and to drag out this video to a sustainable length, and so I don't have to repeat this stance in the future, I'll go ahead and list them for you. For starters, EA has had, let's be charitable and call it problems running the servers for its online games in recent history. If there's a problem with the servers, your online multiplayer game cannot be played. Someday those online servers will be shut down, and Battlefront's online multiplayer, i.e. the entirety of the fucking game, will be rendered permanently unplayable for the rest of your life. Admittedly, that's a long way down the line, but it's still something that's easy to take for granted. That years from now we'll still be able to play primitive NES games like Super Mario Bros., while a big AAA drop-dead gorgeous game like Battlefront is just a pricey drink coaster. Not to mention that with EA being the money-grubbing asswipes that they are, you really have no guarantee of how long the game will run in the first place. Once the game's popularity fades, everybody moves on to other games, and it no longer becomes economical for EA to support Battlefront. And then there's the million things that can go wrong with the internet connection. Back when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Smash Up's online multiplayer was running, I tried the online multiplayer and ended up in a match that ran at roughly 1 frame per second second because one of the combatants had a lousy connection. My house is currently connected with AT&T Uverse, and the internet connection drops about once a week for an indeterminate period of time. If that indeterminate period of time lines up with my game time, well, shit then. There are so many countless little things that can throw a monkey wrench into an online multiplayer game that the game's mere playability is in a state of constant flux. And that's before you get to the online players themselves. To quote the great Dr. Cox, people suck. They are bastard-coated bastards with bastard filling. People have a tendency to do and say whatever the hell they want on the internet when there's not somebody in the room that will punch them in the face for it. And the endless comment boards filled with death threats, racism, and homophobia that perforate the entire interwebs are a great testament to that. When people play a multiplayer game with people in the same room, it's a competition of honor. Both people are just there to have fun and pit their skills against one another to have a good time. But when you play a multiplayer game online, every other player is only out for their own amusement. There is no code, no valor, no sport. It's the Hunger Games. Win by any means necessary and stoop to any spiteful level to do it. As I said, I'm not a big fan of first-person shooters to begin with, but even playing games that I love on online multiplayer has made me miserable. I briefly tried Super Smash Bros. On the Wii U online, and I will never make that mistake again. In fact, it's comforting to know that when I begin to stray from my path and wonder if I should give online multiplayers another shot, I can just pop in good old SSBU and give myself a stark reminder of why I hate online multiplayer. Most everybody who plays that game online just picks a character with one overpowered attack and spams that one overpowered attack for an entire fight. Be it a Pikachu sitting in the corner doing absolutely nothing but the down and B thunder attack repeatedly, or a Charizard using that over B flame burst the entire match until he dies, at which point he just starts doing it again. Or less effectively, Dark Pit using his electric arm dashing attack, just dashing back and forth the entire match hoping he hits someone and sends them flying. You've all played it, you know that I'm right. These people are not playing the game, they're using the cheapest strategy they can find because fun doesn't matter. Your experience doesn't matter. To some anonymous person sitting in his basement playing to other anonymous people sitting in their basements, winning is all that matters. Oh, and did you know that Little Mac is tremendously broken on any level that doesn't require jumping? Everybody else knows that because I've run into at least one Little Mac in well over half the online games that I've played. And then there's all the people who only use Lucario when they play online because they're not even good with him. They just think his gets a power up when he's taking lots of damage ability will give them an advantage. When you play a game online, nobody gives half a shit about sportsmanship. Nobody gives the furry crack of a rat's behind about actually playing the game. They're just out to pound your face into the dirt by any means necessary and make your life a living hell because it amuses them, and they will desperately search for and use every single cheap trick and broken exploit they can find as long as it means winning. Let me boil this down to one simple point for people who aren't following. Online players are such infuriating little pissants filled to the brim with bullshit that I can't stand to play one of my most favorite games in online multiplayer because of the asswipes that play it. That's not all online players, it's just the ones that stick around after a game's minty freshness has worn off. The bottom line is that when you play a game online, your entertainment is 100% reliant on factors beyond your control, chief among them the people that you're stuck playing it with. There are plenty of decent online players, I'm sure, but there's a lot of immature dickheads out there, and if you get stuck with a bunch of dickheads, well, too bad, you're just gonna be miserable. And all that's assuming that there's a lot of online players months down the road in the first place. I've already spoken in my Star Trek 2013 review of how there's very few people playing that game online and finding a stable match is a small miracle, but there's new online multiplayer games coming out pretty much every other week. Players are going to migrate from Battlefront to the new games as soon as they come out, while people are still actually playing the online multiplayer of those games. Players leaving the game once they get bored with it or once something else new and shiny comes out is a game-killing problem for multiplayer games that you and EA can't do anything to fix. And you may think that this is all just whining on my part. You might say I'm just complaining about online shooters because I'm not good at them. That's fair. The fact remains I personally do not like online shooters, and Battlefront is nothing but online shooter. I buy enough games that I already know I'm not going to like without shelling out $60 for the privilege. I'm not going to buy something that I know I'm going to hate just because EA's corporate-sponsored hype machine tells me to. I'm not going to change my views on how much I despise online shooters because it's it's what all the cool kids play, or because the big AAA studios keep trying to shove down my throat that multiplayer is all that matters. I will not be told that what I like is wrong, and I will not be told that I have to get used to online multiplayer because it's the way of the future. I will continue to stand up for single-player content with my small, insignificant voice shouting out into the void because I see online multiplayer for what it is, a gimmick. A game needs to be able to stand up on single-player content alone because there will always be a litany of game-killing problems with multiplayer that the game can't help. For EA to continue to insist that multiplayer is all that matters is the AAA games industry clawing for an excuse to make cheaper games by putting in less content, and I'm not falling for it. I don't expect you to share my opinion, I just expect you to respect that it is my opinion and my conviction. When I go to a Best Buy and I've decided that I'm going to spend the significant disposable income on one brand new game, I have a choice to make. Am I going to pick an online multiplayer game that, even if I like it, it will only be fun for a limited amount of time? Or am I going to buy a single-player game like Metal Gear Solid 5? Seriously, I really think that I want Metal Gear Solid 5. That, if it's good, I'll be able to enjoy until the end of time. Good multiplayer lasts until the assholes move in, or until the game becomes obsolete. A good single-player campaign lasts forever. You want a review of Battlefront? Well, here it is. I refuse to pay $60 for half of a game.